All right, so today I'm going to actually be showing an example of a chatbot and a voice bot interaction, and they're kind of going to be doing the same basic things that they're capturing information from a patient before they come in. And so, a couple of things before I go in here. If you want to think about this, a lot of times the information that we're going to be pulling, we may be confirming it back with some system like an Epic or something along those lines. So we would do API calls. So as I kind of go through the two scenarios that we're going to talk about, we can actually confirm and validate against a backend system. We can also go and create call flows based off of a fixed call flow, or we can use generative AI inside of the instances to give it an instruction set to gather information. And as it does that, we can gather it and then forward it off to an agent. So in this first use case, I'm actually going to start by showing a chatbot example here. And what we're going to do is we're just going to actually initiate the chatbot, and then you're going to see kind of the call flow is using it. So in this use case, I'm just using straight text, but inside of the chatbot widget, you could use things like buttons or carousels to gather and capture information inside of there. I'm not doing it inside of this specifically, but if you wanted to see something like that, we could also show you that. So I'm going to actually start by going into this example here. And inside of the example that we're going to do, you're going to see these little things that are called nodes. The nodes actually are kind of the building blocks of the chatbot. We're not actually going to go specifically into those. We can save that for another conversation. But I'm going to go to this little widget down here that you might see on your website. And specifically in this one, this little widget that I have here is for testing purposes, but we can actually place it out on your website so that you would see what it looks like from that perspective. But as I initiate the chat, you're going to actually start to see things that I can capture up front. So we can start with a form. You don't have to actually physically use a form. If you want, you can just start with this question field inside of there. We can also have it so that it will directly translate or choose a language so that we could directly translate information as it comes through. So I'm going to actually initiate this chat conversation. And I'm just going to start with a hi here. And you're going to see kind of the interactions going back and forth using the chatbot. So first, thank you for contacting the Health First Nurse line. And then it's going to start asking me information. So in this use case, I'm actually using generative AI to capture information. So where it says I need to capture a few things for my privacy, I'm going to say okay here. And then it's going to start asking me those details. So first thing it's going to ask me is get my first name and last name. So I'm actually not paying attention to the prompt as a user, so I'm just going to type in Lad, and it's going to realize that I only gave part of my name. So I can go ahead and say, oh, thank you, Lad. Could you please give me your last name as well? Oh, well, okay. So I need to give me my full name so they know who I am. So now it has that information, and it's going to continue through the flow to say, could you please provide your date of birth? So a lot of times when you're dealing with systems like Epic, your key fields that you need is date of birth, as well as telephone number that you're using to do lookups from that. In this case, I'm just going to put in November 1st, 1994, and then it will continue on to the next part of the call flow. It's going to ask me about authentication. So it's giving me three options here that I can choose. So I can either and if you read the prompt really carefully, it says, which one will you be using? So if I were to type out, I'm going to use my phone number or something on those lines, it would then go and ask me what that is. For the sake of argument and time here, I'm actually just going to say my phone is 908-914-2570. Okay, and so the bot will recognize that it got both of those things in one call, so it doesn't have to ask me for my phone number or my authentication method after the fact. So I'm just going to hit return here, and it's going to say, great, thank you for that. And then it's going to ask me about, am I calling for me or somebody else? So I can say my cousin Vinny here. So it will capture that information as well. And then at the end, am I experiencing any medical symptoms or anything like that? So I am feeling dizzy and confused. right? So it's giving a little bit of information so that I can take that information, tag it along, and then send it off to an agent after the fact. So now that it's captured all the information about what's happened inside of this interaction, you're going to see that it comes up with, here's the information that I captured. It's actually giving me the information in there. It doesn't actually have the last part about my dizzy, confused part because I didn't put it into the interaction to gather that. But if I wanted to, I could add that in. And then it's asking me to confirm that, so I can say yes here. And then the end, I've kind of finalized that transaction inside of there. So perfect. I'm going to I'm transferring you to an agent now. So I don't have an agent online right now, so it automatically just kind of closed off the conversation. We can set the parameters inside of that so it doesn't do it like that, so it doesn't close it off that quickly. But essentially, I was able to gather the information. You're able to look and hear that. At the end of the call flow, we also are going to create an AI summary of that to do that. And I'm going to, in my next example that I'm going to show in the voice bot, I'll show you what that looks like and how that works inside of there. But essentially, that enabled me to gather the information. Everything that I set inside of this chatbot then gets transferred into the agent. The agent will then have access to it. We'll be able to see the full transaction, as well as if I wanted to send the summary directly to them, I could. So that's chatbot. So from a voice interaction, I'm going to go over here, and this is kind of a voice bot that I've created. So one of the things that I mentioned over here is at the end, we have the summary that we're going to go ahead and use inside of here. So you'll see that summary piece. But the other thing that I'm going to say here is in a voice interaction, they're slightly different when you're going through those. So in a voice interaction, it's harder to pick up things like names and addresses and things like that. So in this use case, I'm actually going to ask the customer to spell a name because we can gather that information and transcribe it easier with that. And then I'm using a little bit of generative AI to kind of reformat the data as it's coming through so I can pull it into a specific format. So that's what these little nodes right here are doing inside of that. So with that, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to make a call into that. Like in the chat bot, I had the little button down here where I could test a call. I also have this voice bot button up here where I can test a call here. We can also assign a telephone number where we could gather information through that aspect. But we're going to go and do this. It's going to sound a little bit different because it has just a different prompting structure inside of that. But you're going to actually hear the call flow of how that's going to happen. And we can set it up kind of in a similar way where we're using generative AI to give an instruction set, or in a prescriptive approach where we kind of go down and gather that information. So I'm going to make a call into this one, and you're going to hear the call flow as we go ahead and use it. So let me make a call.
Hello, and thank you for calling the Health First Nurse line. This is Ava, your virtual assistant. I'll quickly confirm a few details before connecting you with one of our licensed nurses. Is that okay?
Yes, that's fine.
Great. To protect your privacy, I'll need to verify your identity. Please spell your first name.
LADD.
Can you please spell your last name?
WIMMER.
And what is your date of birth?
November 18th, 1984.
Thank you. Now, for secure verification, please provide either the last 4 digits of your social security number, your patient ID, or the phone number associated with your medical records.
Yeah, my last 4 of my social are 1234.
Perfect. I've confirmed your identity. Are you calling on behalf of yourself or someone else?
I'm calling on behalf of myself.
Understood. Lastly, are you experiencing a medical emergency at this moment?
Yes, I'm experiencing some heat flashes, and I just don't feel really good.
Thanks for that information. One moment while I connect you with the next available nurse. This call is being recorded for quality and training purposes, and your information is protected under HIPAA guidelines.
Okay, so as you can kind of see, it made it through that whole transaction, and I didn't show kind of the making it to the agent. And if you're interested in seeing that at some point, we can also show you what that looks like when we do that. But obviously, we were able to gather the information. If I go back into the summary over here, you're going to actually see that I captured the summary of what happened in there. And so customers Lad Wimmer called the Health First Nurse line, experiencing heat flashes. Virtual agent Ava verified Lad's identity using his personal details. And so you can see that it captured the information in here. One of the things that you're not seeing in there is you're not seeing any protected field inside of that summary, because it didn't go through and do that. It's doing it based off of HIPAA guidelines. But in essence, it gives me that summary, so I can take that summary and say, here, you, Mr. Agent, here's what happened inside of here. In fact, when we get to that, we could actually pop a screen somewhere that said, this is XYZ person, and here's what happened in that interaction with the agent, so you don't actually have to worry about going through all that again. Some of the other stuff that you're seeing in here, so I'm inside of the logs, you're seeing what it actually got transcribing as we were going through the information. So that's just how the voice bot works. So I can build call flows specifically to that. I can use natural language to pick up what's being said by the person. So gives me the capability of creating a dynamic call flow that enables you to use the bots as you would choose to use it. So obviously, you got to see both the interaction and similar interaction using either a voice or the chat bot. There is a separate option that I'm not going to show today, but inside of the voice bot, we do have the capability of, if we wanted to have a customer fill out a form online, we have the capability of sending out an SMS message to the customer or the patient, and say, here, I'm going to send you an SMS, and it will click up a dynamic form. So the dynamic form allows me to create a form inside of our Studio platform, and then once we have that form, they can fill it out from that text message, and then that will all be captured, and the voice transaction will continue on. So that may be an option for certain people that you may be interested in capturing different types of information in a different way. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and end this interaction, or end this demo. And I hope to be able to talk about this stuff with you in the future. Thanks a lot.